All right.
There we go.
Hi guys, it's Athene. And this is Reese.
Another episode of Athene and Reese.
And today we're going to talk about something that a lot of you guys might find very obvious, but I think it's one of the more important talks. It's going to be about language and concepts. And you might go like, why would that be an interesting topic to talk about?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Teach us French? Athene? What are you doing? Language and concepts? What's going on?
The thing is that everything we do, all our thoughts, all our communication, almost all of it, is language and concepts, whether it's verbally or whether it's like body language. Like you always communicate. It's our way of communicating, and it's also our way of thinking. Like when we think in concepts, we think in language. When we think about certain things, whether it's a chair or a table or, for example, a figure or God, for example, it's all language and concepts that we use to go about life. And the reason why it's a very important topic is because a lot of the times it is the central of a lot of miscommunication and misunderstandings, and can cause a lot of pain. And you might say like, I don't know, like when I talk to someone and there isn't a disagreement, what does language have to do with it?
I can express myself very clearly, right? So the other person, well, I make sure there's no miscommunication. But the thing is, like what you're getting at is just how deep it goes. Because I believe, like I don't know the details of this, I did sound like I studied it very closely, but I mean I once read upon it, but this is a while back. Human beings only really developed advanced thinking when language developed, right? Isn't that how it is? Like you can't really have advanced trains of thought without language, or at least some form of language and labeling and encoding things so that you can sort of like create these constructions in your head. So your fundamental almost sense of reality is dramatically defined by these concepts and language things. So just take into account, just imagine someone who grows up differently might have deeply rooted different concepts and feelings associated with the very words you're using. So that's where
that is indeed like a very important thing, is that when you think about language and about concepts, you also have an emotional attachment to each concept and word. Just to put things very simple, when I use the word, for example, robot, when I talk about humans and that we're advanced computers, then a lot of people would immediately connotate that to a negative thing. Say like, no, I'm not a robot, I'm not an advanced computer, I'm a human. When you then go deeply about what I mean about an advanced computer, an advanced robot, then if I use different words and if I use different language, suddenly a lot more people would go like, oh yeah, but that is something I can agree with. And that is also why in politics, or when you talk about things, the way you actually weight your words and which words you use is very important, because every single person has a different emotional trigger for words that you use. Sometimes the way you experience something and the way that you conceptualize a certain word or whatever is completely different than another person. So if you're in a conversation with someone and you're talking about a certain concept, for example, spirituality. That's a good word. Like you can talk about spirituality against someone like a scientist, and maybe you guys are actually having the same opinion, the same ideas, but because you guys are using different language, you will actually start fighting, because you're fighting on like the outer layer of the conversation, which is the emotional attachment to the words, rather than actually the information that you're trying to communicate.
Exactly, or the opposite, which happens shitloads. Especially when, you're talking about spirituality, go to any place that is very sort of like New Age oriented, whether it's like some sort of, festival or event or whatever. You'll have a lot of people there who feel very connected because, a lot of, like, everyone's sort of sharing a lot of those beliefs, right? And, to an extent, of course, that's true. But you'll have so many people there having this kind of like strange imagined sense of connection, because everyone has like a completely different sense of what they believe in. For example, Einstein once described himself, I believe, as sort of like a religious person just because he has a great respect for the unknown and the mystery of the universe and doesn't know if we will ever be able to completely fathom it. And that is the way in which he described himself as religious. Not in any other way. Most people would think like, oh really, Einstein was religious? Interesting. No, it was not religious in any way that you probably think when you think of the word religious. Yet there are so many people who see so many different things in religion, in spirituality, in like those words are really good examples because.
But the thing is, like, if you are aware of those dynamics, if you're aware of those underlying dynamics, it will dramatically increase your communication with other people, because rather than trying to immediately start having a fight or an agreement or disagreement about certain words, you will rather ask like, but what do you mean? Like, can you define what do you mean about, for example, spirituality or God or whatever? Because a lot of people, even like atheists and religious people, a lot of people actually share the same beliefs. When you talk about God and the way they explain it, you would go like, yeah, but if that's what you understand about God,
right,
then yeah, like if that's the unknown, and I would call it the nothingness, to say it like that.
Exactly. You've got a lot of people who have that, who say like, oh yeah, I believe in God. It's like, oh, you believe in some like bearded man,
yeah,
clouds, like fuck you, that's ridiculous. And then when you talk with them, like they say like, no, I just believe, there's something mysterious about life and how this all works.
And then suddenly it's like, but then we don't actually have
disagree so much.
And it's very important to be very aware about those dynamics, because it can really drastically help you connect with your environment and also with yourself, being aware that like when certain words have certain emotional attachments, to be able to detach them from each other, because that's also something you can do. For example, when you think about God, because I think God is one of the best examples, because like it's such a controversial topic as well, and such a universally accepted
and so scattered at the same time
concept. But the thing is, like every single person on the planet has probably a different idea, a different view on what God is. Yet some people are being like judged for believing or not believing in God, even though if you would just look at how it is and you would just take all the definitions of all the people with God, they're all different, and then it's a very unstructured and a very floaty thing. It's important because it allows you to take distance from labeling people, nations, cultures with concepts, with words that have an emotional attachment, and allows you to just see things more for what they are. It can really enrich your life.
I would go as far as say maybe when you disagree with someone, maybe the chances are more often than not that you're actually agreeing. Because in the end, human beings are always kind of similar. A language is an incredible tool that has advanced so much, but can also be like a barrier that can really blind you from what you actually have in common. I think that's beautifully said. I think I did a nice little at the end there.
That's really
nice little, really inspiring there. It was good.
Well, you just now ruined it though.